Hello, you guys, and welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited. Today we have Madison Paige on the podcast. Welcome, Madison.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited. For those that don't know you yet, can you give us a little introduction on yourself?
Yeah, I am a business consultant. I work with mostly product-based business owners, but with some service as well, helping people build industry-leading communities on social media. So, helping with the marketing, helping with social media, but also helping them just run a business as well. And my whole philosophy around running a business is kind of the freepreneur lifestyle. I used to run a business that had me working, 16, 17-hour days. I was so burnt out. I was like, what the heck am I doing? I was way too young to be feeling burnt out in my job. And when I started this business, I was determined to teach other business owners that the narrative of like, I quit my 9 to 5 so I can work 24/7 does not need to be the case. And so we teach a very balanced, very free, very like lifestyle approach to business.
Ooh, I love that. That's my favorite thing in the world to talk about. Every time someone says, like, I quit my 9 to 5 to work 24/7, an angel loses its wings. Like, I die a little inside every time. I'm like, well, that's the worst thing I've ever heard. Like, you're working 24/7 to barely have health insurance. Like, what are we even
Yeah,
talking
right.
about? So, I would love to talk about that. Like, where in your story, in your pipeline, in your experience, was kind of like that breaking point? Like, were you doing a
Yeah.
completely different business before? What did that look like?
Yeah, so my parents bought an adventure resort when I was like 12. And so whitewater rafting, zip lining, paintballing, kayaking, we had cabins, camping, all sorts of stuff. And I was already like an entrepreneurial kid. I was like the weird kid that had lemonade stands and bracelet making businesses. I just like always was somebody that wanted a project. And so once that happened, I like dove headfirst in business. And so I was like taking phone call reservations at 14. I was like fully guiding trips at 16, and I was literally the operations manager in between my junior and senior year of high school. And so I just like dove into it. It was, we're only open in the summers. And so my entire summers would be 3 hours away from Milwaukee up at my family's resort. And I would basically like be managing a team of 50 and had like this crazy busy schedule for those months because we had to make all of our revenue in like 4 to 5 months out of the year. That was my life. And so once I graduated high school, I went to school for business management and marketing. I was in school for business, but in my summers, I would be up there and I would be running this business. And I was the only manager really on duty. I was like the only operations manager. And it was kind of this narrative of like, Maddie, it's on you. And so I was very young. I was working a lot of hours. It was such an all-encompassing business. We had a team of 50. We would put like 40,000 people down activities in like 4 months. And I was literally working, whatever, 14, 15, 16-hour days, 7 days a week for 4 months at a time. And I am an extrovert to the day that I die. Like, I can go to a coffee shop and just be around other people and feel like my battery is like being refilled. And come August, by the end of our season, I wanted to be like thrown in a hobbit hole to never be talked to again and be like, let me literally just like fester here without saying a single word to anybody. And every year it would start to take me like, it took me 3 months to figure it out, four or not 3 months, 3 weeks to figure it out, 4 weeks to figure it out. And all of a sudden I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to do anything. And I
Mhm.
started to like dread going back to this place that was my happy place. And while I was there, I didn't really see that it was a problem until I left and I just like couldn't rest. I would be like, Maddie, you shouldn't be doing things. You don't have to do things. And I would be on like so overdrive,
Mhm.
to the point that I actually got diagnosed with CPTSD from like not being able to chill the hell out. And so it was definitely a journey of, starting this business. Kind of, I was doing social media management throughout college. I had a blog throughout college. I was just a kid that needed a project all the time. I had a
Mhm.
lot of moving parts. And now I just like, I was like, you know what? I am going to run my business. This is the business I want to run. And once I did it, I found myself not being able to rest. And I was just like in that hustle culture. And I had to like take a beat and be like, this isn't the life that I want to build. I want to build a
Mhm.
life outside of the business. And so, how can I, from kind of the core of the business that I run now, run it with balance in my life, as well as teach people how to run it with balance in their life as well?
I love that. I resonate so hard with that. I'm like, I too was one of those children. Like, I graduated high school early so that I could work three jobs to pay for college. And I was working like 80-hour weeks, like
Yes.
just insanity. And that energy has continued ever since. And I've had to do very intentional
Yep.
check-ins to be like, let's not do that. So were you still, would you say when you like started this new business, the coaching and consulting, were you already coming into it with this idea of not overworking yourself and like finding that happy medium, or was that like developed as you worked on this business?
Yeah, because it was all kind of overlapped is I was like still working in the summers running my family's business, and then during the school year I would like be doing social media management and other things that I mean during the summer I would be running my social media management business, this business and my blog. I had so many things happening. And once I got into the point of kind of consulting instead of doing social media management, I was talking to these people and I realized like at the end of my season where I was so burnt out, I was doing way too much. I said, all right, like something has to change. I have to be able to run this business. If this is going to be a business I want to run forever, like I have to be able to run this break. Like I need to be able to like run a business that makes sense and not need like a sabbatical from the business I'm running to be able to
Hmm.
like mentally be able to handle it. And so it kind of just like I don't know, but it, like grew into the balance space approach. And when I started to talk to my clients, and so many of them were overworking themselves, or they were, you know, were running a 9 to 5, being a mom, being an entrepreneur, which like God bless anybody that's trying to do that. Is so many things on your plate. It's like you have to be able to enjoy your life alongside of your business. Otherwise, it's not worth it. Like you don't start your business for freedom. I wanted to be able to travel and be able to like live out of my bus that I live out of now and go from place to place and not feel like I had to be on like overdrive all the time. And really what it came down to was my first summer away from my family's business. I had this like identity crisis because I poured so much of my life into this business, and like it was from such a young age I developed my personality around it. And I left for the season for the summer and I was like, you know what? I'm going to California. My boyfriend and I went there together, and I just like had a major identity crisis of like, who am I? How do I even do anything? And I remember so vividly like sitting on a beach on a Saturday and just like fidgeting, being like, why can I not hang out? Like, why can I not chill out? And it was really that moment that I was like, no, I'm figuring out how to be able to have a fulfilling life and have a fulfilling business alongside of it.
I love that. How do you how do you do that? Like what were your first steps in like
Yeah.
obviously recognition is the first step of just like, okay, shit, this actually doesn't work at all. I'm not
Yeah.
having a good time. What were your next steps? Like how did you start finding that alignment between your business and your personal life? Like what did that journey look like?
Yeah, through kind of my mini identity crisis at like 23 years old, I basically kind of forced myself into not doing anything because I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know what to do. It was probably the only time in my life, and I'm grateful to be able to say that I was like depressed. I like didn't
Mhm.
really know how to handle anything. I didn't really know what was going on, and I kind of just ended up of me doing nothing. And a lot of it was me working in different tools of, you know, I was always the like personal development junkie. And so I was trying to like personal growth my way through this. And it like nothing was working other than just like literally doing nothing. And I was like, this is all that I want to do all day long. And I think I basically just took the like hyper opposite approach of like, all right, let me just like learn to be able to do nothing, learn to be able to be alone. And then I had to realize like the pendulum had to swing back and be able to be like, all right, I want to build this business. I've always been ambitious. I've always been somebody that liked to be structured. Let's find a way that I don't have to do nothing and I don't have to do everything all at once. And a lot of it came down to like proper planning and proper scheduling out your calendar and not being afraid to like schedule in fun on your calendar because otherwise, sometimes, especially for me, like I'll either, again, it's like I'll either just sit at home and watch a movie at night or I'll fill it with something if I don't fill it with something that's fun and out there. And so I think a lot of it was developing a personality outside of my business, developing and realizing that there's so much more to me than just the achievement that came from running my business, running my family's business. I was just like an addict into the achievement as opposed to an addict of enjoying life alongside of it. So
Mm.
for me, it really was developing hobbies, developing other values, developing really close friendships, and being able to identify that like I am a person outside of my business, which took me a long time because I was so sunken into businesses since I was a kid. It was my fun fact. Like it was
Mhm.
like everybody that met me knew I ran this business because I was 17 running a business and I thought it was really cool. And so it was like something I was constantly talking about. If it was like if I didn't have anything to talk about, I just talked about the business. And so I had to kind of develop who I was outside of the business. And I really feel that being able to have an identity outside of something that is fleeting, it can go away, something can happen to it, and you have to have that identity outside of it in order to reduce the burnout and be able to actually enjoy being a business owner.
No, you hit the nail on the head. I'm like that was like so relatable because that truly it becomes your entire identity if you're not careful. Like it
Yeah.
truly becomes like it slowly takes over your life and then it slowly takes over you. And you're like, wait, I am
Yeah.
this business. Like I have nothing else. What did that personal work look like? Like, do you have steps or tricks or tips that like were particularly helpful for you in identifying like
Yeah.
who am I? Like, because I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with is they're like, I made for a lot of people, it's like I made this hobby or like this thing that I'm passionate about into a business. So that's gone now because it's
Yeah.
business. Like, I don't even know what I like. Like, I don't even know what I like to do. I don't know who I am. I just don't know. Like, where
Yeah.
do you suggest starting with that?
For sure. And honestly, it took me a really long time, and I still have days where I'm like, do I have hobbies? Do I have other things? And you have to
Yeah.
kind of bring yourself back and be like, no, there are other things about me than just this business. And honestly, I had so many, one of the like major realization moments was I had like my boyfriend was like, Maddie, I don't really know what you like to do. He's like, I know
Mm,
you run this business. I know you like to like whitewater raft and stuff with with the family's business, but like what do you like to do as a person? Like, who are you outside of it? And I remember being so offended, being like, there's so many things about me. What are you talking about? And then actually having the conversation of like, I was only offended because truly I didn't have too much else. And I
mhm.
did, but I just didn't I let the business overrun everything that I wanted to do. And so basically what I did is we moved to where we are now is White Salmon, Washington area. And I remember coming here, I got into a new group of friends and I just looked at all of them and they like all had their own hobbies. I'm in like a very like recreational area. Everybody is kind of like when you ask people what you do, it's not your job. It's like what hobbies do you do and like what recreational sport are you playing as an adult? Which is a really unique place. And I remember sitting in this group of people and being like, wow, we have a dancer, like we have a girl that does kiteboarding. We have somebody that does whitewater rafting. Like they had someone's an artist, someone's a potter, someone like goes on these like extravagant hikes and like all of these things. And I remember sitting down just being but who am I in this group? And how can I be myself outside of being like, oh, like I own a business. And I am very type A. I have just accepted it. I think I tried to be type B for a while because I thought my type A-ness was just like I was trying to be too structured with life. And so I'm like, no, I'm gonna like try to chill. And I've realized it's okay. I'm just type A and I can be a balance and it still be type A. And so I sat down and like I started writing down all of the things that like I've always admired or almost been like jealous of that other people are doing. Always been like, damn, that would
Mm.
be kind of cool. That would be like something that I would love. And I kind of just started to do it. I took a pottery class, I bought a pottery wheel. I started scheduling in, like I've always loved to hike and I've always loved to work out and I've always loved to go to yoga classes, but I would always just push them off if anything else came up in my life or like my boyfriend was home, it would just be like, ah, like we'll just hang out and watch a movie. And so I basically said, like, I have to start scheduling these things in, otherwise I won't do it. So I've started putting it on my calendar of just like opening the door to trying new things and seeing what kind of stuck, seeing what I found myself really doing. And honestly, to this day, it's still a practice of me being like, all right, let's schedule it in. Let's actually put it on my calendar because if it's not there, I'll just end up hanging out at home. So I really had to sit down. I Pinterest boarded like a mood board. I wrote down all of the people that I really wanted and kind of did that like vision board technique of, you know, what type of business owner do I want to be, but what lifestyle do I want to have and how can I build a business around the lifestyle I want to have as opposed to the
Mm.
opposite of like building the lifestyle around my business.
Ooh, I love that. Like, and I love putting things that are important to you into the calendar because that is the like physical manifestation of scheduling
Yeah.
your business around your life. It's even just subconsciously so much more respected if it has a slot in your calendar. Like I am religious about putting like it's also because I have a horrible memory, but like putting plans, putting parties, putting everything in my calendar because it's so much easier to respect and it's so much
Yeah.
easier to adjust to when I'm like, no, this has already been penciled off. This has already been something that's been worked into my schedule. Like this is something that's actually important. I also love the idea of like writing down things that you admired other people doing. Like I've never thought of that way because I do think like we look at our friends' hobbies and our talents and it's very like, oh, that's good for them. Like I could never do that. And it's like, why? Why
Mhm.
not? Like, why couldn't you do that? Why couldn't you try that? So I love that idea. That's so much fun.
Yeah, and it really was like, all right, like let me design my life, let me design who I want to be. And like the person has always been inside of me. I just really didn't let her come out because I prioritized my achievements and my business so much more before it. But I don't think that I would be able to be the business owner that I am today and be able to be positive that I want to like run a business forever unless I did that. Unless I like decided to let me figure out what I like to do outside of being a business owner and really be able to prioritize that in there. And it's hard, like no way at 4 p.m. on a Tuesday am I gonna be like, oh, like I should go to yoga tonight. Like I am just not gonna do it a day of like spur of the moment. I need to be able to have it on my calendar. Like if I don't wake up and it's on my calendar for what I'm doing this evening, I'm like, it's just not going to happen. And so it's something that I just had to really flip my priorities around. Like, I still work. I still tell myself I work like 10 to 5 every day. And that was something that, like, I have more structured business hours. But if somebody calls me and they want to go to lunch on a Wednesday, I can look at it and I can say, oh, okay, I can do that. And so I always kind of say, like, I want to be structured when I can be. So when I don't
Mm,
want to be, I don't have to be. And
I
so
love that.
it's like be structured on those days, be structured Monday through Friday and say, I work these days, I know what I'm doing, I'm planning for them. I have it organized, I'm strategized that when I do want to, like today, after we're done recording, my boyfriend and I are going to a hockey game tonight. And like, I know I'm going to log off at 2 p.m. and that's okay because I've been so structured the rest of the week.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's so important too to like give yourself the grace and flexibility to like have that structure when you can and you want to so that yeah, like you can
Yeah.
do otherwise in other times and it's accounted for already and it's perfectly okay and it's been scheduled around. I love that.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something you said in the beginning, which was really like fostering a sense of community around your business. Can we talk a little bit about that and like what that means to
Yeah.
you and how that like manifests in your business?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, community really is the core of everything. And it's something I've been teaching for a while. And I think it's now like really starting to be such a strong conversation, especially because of the influencer world that has gotten so big and just like the public figure having like content creation, having an online presence has gotten to be so aspirational for a lot of people because it is such a fruitful career right now.
Mhm.
And but it is just the same as having a business. Like we need to think of our business as building a community around something. And what we really see is the businesses that are breaking through the most saturated industries are taking the time to really build community. And like for you as like teaching a lot of photographers and like having a lot of photographers in your audience, like people are investing, yes, they're investing in your style and your art, which can be wonderful, but like they are investing in you and having you actually be there taking the pictures and feeling comfortable with you, feeling like you're a friend, feeling like it's not awkward, that it makes such a big difference if they can already know what to expect before buying from you, before working with you, and knowing that it's going to be like knowing that there's not going to be friction once you get there. It just like takes a step off. And no matter what business you have, if you have a product based business, a service based business, if you're in person, online, whatever, we can kind of foster this connection around shared values, around like the same motivations, similarities, differences, quirks. And that is what people really connect to. People connect to people. And even if you are hand making pottery and selling your pottery, like, yeah, they are buying your physical thing, but they're buying into you. And you're seeing increasingly like the founder of the business being such a pivotal point of the actual strategy of being able to at least have a person behind the brand. Like, there's a reason that like Jake from State Farm is a thing and like Flo from Progressive is because it's hard to connect with insurance. And so they put a person there, even though it wasn't the founder of the brand, but they put a person that they want people to be able to connect with. And it's the same as you building your business, especially like in photography or something that has a more personal brand behind it, is like you have to share your own personality. And the content that is going to perform the best is like your morning routine or like your coffee
Mm.
order or like then your nail polish that you did this week. Like that is truly what people are going to engage with you on, because it's way more fun to talk about that and like engage with that than it is to engage with some of this other random stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Like I never get more engagement than when I talk about my personal life, or like the stories that get the most
Yeah,
views are like ones where I poll people on like what my nail tech should do next, or like what piece of furniture
right.
I should invest in. Like that's how
Yeah.
you build relationships with people, and they bond with you over like those common factors, and then you can move into, more work-centered things. But do you have like tangible tips that you usually recommend for like someone just getting started in like showing up and showing their face and showing their personality? Like, where does one get started with that? Because it can be so intimidating
Yeah,
when you're new to it. There's so many people
for
in the
sure.
space. Like, what do you suggest?
Yeah. For sure. And I started as a blogger, like OG, I guess, influencer days, like 2015, 2016. I had a blog and I like refused to show my face on my blog because I was like, what is everybody going to say when they find this? And
Hmm.
I remember my friends like finding the profile and then being like, is this you? Like, this looks like you, but like you're not showing that it's you. And me being like mortified that people knew who I was, like what I was doing there. And so I was not somebody that thought that my face was going to be like plastered all over the internet. I would have 200 plus hours of myself speaking online. It's not something that I like set out to do from the start, but it's something that I realized back in my blogging days that once I did feel more comfortable trying to like start creating connection and a personal brand around my blog, it's when my sales started to happen. It's when the growth started to happen as well. And so one of the major things that I would say is like start with baby steps. Start on the days you feel your best, like deep into the luteal phase, like right before you're about to have your period, probably not the day to like show up on live. And so trying to like plan the days that you feel the best, start with your favorite photo of yourself, start with pictures on your stories. And really, what it comes down to, even if you're starting a more professional community, start trying to foster community with personal stuff. Like you said, home decor, your pets, your nails, your hair, your food, your coffee order, like random little things that people love to share their opinions. And every time they engage with you, it's kind of like a little tick on the like, oh, I connected. Oh, I connected, even if it's subconscious. And so at the very beginning, starting to just get a little bit more like, this is who I am. I do think it's helpful to pick like three major kind of pillars about yourself. So I talk a lot about travel. I talk a lot about like using a lot of all natural products around my house. I talk a lot about my dog. I'll talk a lot about like random things, but I have certain kind of pillars that I do think it's easier for people for in your brain. If you don't want to just like share your entire life, try to like put them into categories of like, oh, I could talk about this. So if you have like a routine that you love, like if you write down gratitude in the morning, like every morning for like a couple of days a week, start saying, these are the things that I'm doing in my gratitude list, just so people can start having something to talk about with you. Some of the major pieces when it comes to community building really is getting them involved from a more personal front. And yes, you want to get them involved in your business. Like, do you like this style? Do you like that style? Should we launch this? Should we launch that? Is this something you would be interested in? But before you can really get people to weigh in on their opinions on your business, you have to get them to connect with you personally first.
Hmm.
So the easiest way to gain engagement really is going to be asking about your coffee order, your nails, your like your home decor, your pets, your personal things that people just love to share their opinions. So how can we get them to engage with us in that way first? Because the more that you can get them to engage with you from a personal front, the more kind of just like tallies they have in their brain of, oh, yes, I engaged with her. Yes, I connected with her in that sense. And the more likely they are, it's called the like yes ladder, the more likely they are to say yes later on from a sales strategy, as well as just like being more involved in your business in that community there as well. So involvement and like collaboration in your community is key to really start fostering. Like, I know it sounds so simple, but if you never ask for them to engage with you, like they probably aren't going to. So you can't just never ask them a single question other than like, go and buy this and think that people are going to be really engaged with buying from you. And so what I like to say is start with the personal stuff and develop into the professional questions. And if I know so many people are like, Maddie, but my life is boring. Like I live a mundane life. Like I wake up, I have kids, my house is ugly. Like what am I supposed to share? Pick like two pieces about you and don't make it being a mom, don't make it being coffee, don't make it your dog. Like make it something that's a little bit deeper than that. That people like, what are your quirks? What are things that you love? What are things that you hate? Like I literally can't handle spice hotter than black pepper. I'm weak. I've gotten tested to see if I have like food in like intolerances to it, and I'm just a bitch. Like I'm just weak. It just
That's
doesn't,
so
whatever it is.
funny.
Like I was like, I have to be allergic because it hurts. Like this is like a visceral reaction. And they're like, no, you're just kind of a weak little gal. And it's something that I talk about where I'll be like, I tried Sweet Baby Ray's today and like I'm sweating my butt off because it is
Stop.
so spicy. I know it's so bad.
It's so
And it's
funny.
just something that like people will send me things and they'll be like, Maddie, I just had this spicy meal and there's no way you would be able to eat it. And I'd be like, honey, I can barely have ketchup. Like there's no way I'd be able to have anything with any sort of pepper in it ever. And it's like a quirky thing that everybody has something, like whether or not it's funny or it's just a routine that you do in the morning, like what is something unique that you do, you love, if it's reality TV, if it's whatever, just make it something that's a little bit deeper and that people can really relate to and start getting them to know you being that type of person.
Absolutely. No, I love that. I think it's like so important. And it also like makes your job more fun. Like that's always what I tell people too is I'm like, you're gonna have more fun if you can actually show up as yourself in your business. You feel like you're creating a
For
genuine
sure.
friendship with these people. It's so much more fulfilling for you and it's so much more fulfilling for them.
Yeah, and you attract people that are so much more like you. Like there's so many people in my audience that like I've met up in real life. Like I'm like, man, like we are friends. Like we have you followed me for how many years and like you're in my DMs all the time. We're chatting and like I'll go and grab coffee with them when I'm traveling around. And it's because they are like they know who I am. And sometimes it's funny because they will know so much about me, especially if they listen to my podcast like I'll meet them and they'll know my life stories. Like they'll know and they'll be like, "Oh, well, your mom." And I'm like, "How do you know that?" And they're like, "Oh, you talked
Yeah.
about it that one time." And it's to a point where like they don't need to know everything about my life, but they know enough about me to feel like we are like we have a close connection.
Hmm. No, absolutely. That's always such a parasocial, like social relationships are so
I know,
interesting because I feel the same way about other people. Like, or I'll
for
meet up with
sure.
someone and we've been mutuals, and I'm like, I know so much information about you, and you know so much information about me, and we've never
Yeah,
met before. Like, it's so
I
fascinating.
know.
So, so fascinating. Well, I love all of this. This is all so helpful and like so tangible. I would love to know, like, a more personal side. Like, what are you loving about your business right now? Like, what are you loving about your life? Like, what is that work balance like right now?
Yeah, honestly, with right now we are leaving next week to go to mine and my boyfriend's family's houses for the next 2 months. Bless us and bless our souls through the holiday season, like spending kind of switching off between bouncing back and forth between my parents and his parents. We've been traveling for like a year and a half, and
Okay.
so it'll just be nice to like really hang out and really be able to get some time. And it's something that I always just have such a sense of gratitude for is like I know the next 2 months of my life probably aren't going to be the most productive 2 months that I could possibly have in my business, but knowing that I will be able to take a step back and like spend time with my family and like not have to feel like I am not have that pressure of like, oh my gosh, like this relentless guilt of like, I should be doing that. I should be doing this other thing. And I'm sure I'll have it some days of like, holy cow, like I really need to sit down and work. But the ability to be able to, drive 3,000 miles and be with different family members and be able to, stay home, stay somewhere that's not like my actual home right now for 2 months just feels so like there's just so much gratitude there. And it just comes down to the fact that like you do get to design the life that you want and the freedom, the style of freedom, kind of what your definition of freedom is, and that you don't have to settle for anything less. Like there are so many people out there that like would have looked at me 5 years ago and we've all had those like crazy comments that people make to you of like, what are you going to do when your business fails or like Do you really think that's something like that seems a little ambitious? And it's like, yeah, it is ambitious, but now you get to kind of live that definition. You get to live out that definition of what you've been trying to build. And of course, there's always next steps and what's exciting there. But the beginning of the year, everybody's so excited to grow their business. And so I just know the next like 6 months are going to be so fun. We'll be home. We'll be able to kind of like enjoy the holidays and then like ramp right up to get everybody to grow their business in the new year.
Amazing. I love that. And that's like, yeah, that's so exciting to be able to work towards a beautiful life and like prioritize your family and prioritize
Yeah,
time with loved ones. Like that really is, I think, like what I really hope people take from this is that you do own your own business so that you can live a life like that. Like that's
yeah,
truly the entire purpose is to have a business that allows you to have a beautiful personal life. And like we're so lucky and
I know.
privileged that we like get to design that and then execute it in the way that we want.
For sure. I know. And like the idea of who knows what I'll be doing in my business in 5 to 10 years, but like I know that I'll be able to design the business that I want to have. And like it might, in 5 to 10 years, I'll be looking at what the next 5 to 10 look like. And it really is like brick by brick, what life do you want to have? And just look forward and see what's coming.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Maddie.
Yes.
It's been amazing talking to you and learning more about your story. Thank you for sharing all of that with us.
Yes. Thanks for having me. It's been
Yeah.
wonderful.
We'll obviously link everything in the show notes, but can you tell us where we can find you on the internet?
Yeah. I have a podcast. It's the Small Business Growth Podcast. You can check me out there. That's where I put 2 episodes out a week. We hang out there. I have a great community there as well as on Instagram at This Is Madison Page. And you can check me, I guess, at This Is Madison Page on all platforms. But Instagram and my podcast are the home. So either Small Business Growth Podcast or This Is Madison Page.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on again. We'll link that for everyone in the show notes. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.